everyone, welcome back to another episode of Final Fantasy Brave Exvius. My name is Mars, and today we're going to do the complete guide for Kingdom Hearts Cloud. Now, once again, tiny disclaimer, this is not a unit I actually own, but I have read quite a lot into him, seen some different opinions on him and about how to use him, so I kind of wanted to relay my own thoughts and feelings about Kingdom Hearts Cloud, how good he is, and whether or not he's worth your investment, if you are lucky enough to actually have him. Of course, as always. So, just like last time, we are here in the unofficial test dummy that actually hits you back. And this is where we're going to test out some of his abilities to see what they're like, and we'll have some fun with that. I don't know why I'm re-raising, it's not like this fight's hard. Okay, so first things first, let's take a look at Cloud's TMR, which is basically a less good version of Elfrida's TMR. It gives 50% true double hand as well as plus 40 attack, and what makes it different is that it gives plus 10 defense and spirit. In my opinion, this makes it worse than Elfrida's TMR because that gives auto limit every turn, which is more useful for a lot of double hand units. And it's also worse than Akstar's TMR, which will come in the eventual future, which gives limit burst fill rate up, which is even better than auto limit in most cases, in my opinion. So, really good for people who don't have true double hand stuff, but compared to Elfrida's TMR, it is a hair worse, but, you know, if he's what you got, it's what you got. Now, his STMR is a two-handed greatsword that has 180 attack, which is basically the same as the other Cloud's STMR, except the sword just looks a little different. So, you know, it's really cool if you have an imbuer and you have a true double hand sword user who can just light things up with their limit burst or something like that, which is something that Cloud can do, of course. But I don't know. As far as two-handed swords go, it's really good, but as far as how much you may end up using it, I think that would just depend on you. So, I mean, to be fair, I'd probably get it if I had it. I would probably use it. So, looking real quick at his kit, the Kingdom Hearts Cloud unit has a lot of abilities, but really only a handful of them that you'll be using. It is important to note that he is a double hand damage dealer who has the ability to use double ability. However, unlike other more recent multicast double hand units, he can only double hit and he can't do triple or quadruple attacks. And that's compensated for within the rest of his kit. So as far as his notable abilities go, which one is the most notable? You can ignore most of his abilities, to be honest. Meteor Rain is the first one of note because it actually chains up and it is an AoE move. However, it doesn't have that many hits. It does not that much damage. It does some damage, but you know, it's there if you need some AoE damage. Sora can chain with this skill, as can the vanilla Cloud. So, you know, if you happen to need some AoE damage. Aside from that, he also has Split Burst, which is nice for a little bit of personal MP refresh if he happens to need it, which he probably won't. And then he has Sonic Blade, which is a Divine Ruination skill, wherever that went. There it is. Not a bad skill, but it's not as good as his Continuum Cut, which is also a Divine Ruination skill, with a much higher modifier. So, this is the skill you will probably be using the most with Cloud, because it does do the most damage, and it does more damage than Hyoh. Even if Cloud is only double casting, he will still do more damage than a triple casting Hyoh with Continuum Cut, because it does have that much higher of a modifier. Now, looking at some of his cooldown skills, he does have Cross/Omen, which is a cooldown skill that buffs his attack by 250% for 3 turns, removes attack breaks from himself, and enables Cross/Plus for 3 turns, which is another AoE attack ability that has a pretty strong modifier, but it only hits 5 times, so it's not going to be the most ideal for chaining, but since it's more than 1 or 2 hits, it may not also be the best for finishing. So, decent for AoE damage, but I personally don't see it being used a ton. His other cooldown skill is probably equally perplexing. It's basically just a big finishing move, and this finishing move has a 9 times modifier that ignores 50% defense, so it is an 18 times modifier, which is pretty huge for a physical finishing move. It does only hit one enemy, but it can be used every 4 turns, and I do believe it can be multicast with some of its other skills. And that's something I wish I could test better, is whether or not, I could multicast with a pair of clouds, and they could both do, like, Continuum Cut for their first cast, and then finish with Assault Break. We may be able to test some of that here in a second on this boss. I'll try to not kill it too quickly. But, yeah. That's basically most of the kit that you're going to care about. The rest of his damage abilities are just not that impressive. They mostly just do some damage. One of them can do Paralyze. A couple of them are like Assault Charge, for example. This ability can increase the modifier of your next Sonic Blade or Split Burst, but you're not really going to be doing that. Like you would rather spend 2 turns doing Sonic Blade or Split Burst, in my opinion. So, not the most amazing. Other than that, like I said, you're going to be using his Divine Ruination skill, which is Continuum Cut, and that's probably what you're going to use most of the time, because it does do a ton of damage. His Limit Burst is pretty much the same as the other Cloud's Limit Burst. Omni Slash, it has a very high modifier, it hits a whole bunch of times, but it doesn't chain super well. So, I don't know. Pretty good for solo damage dealer, like boss kills and stuff like that. Pretty strong finishing damage, or pretty strong just Limit Burst damage in general. So, it is a good ability. And if you're going to use Cloud, you may as well invest in that Limit Burst because it is strong, but it basically is just a damage skill. So, that's pretty much it for his kit. Let's take a look at what some of these abilities look like. We're going to go ahead and double cast a couple of them just to see. So, Clem Hazard, you'll recognize this from Vanilla Cloud. This is, his on-demand finishing skill, which is not that amazing. It does some damage, but it's not that amazing. Let's do Cross/Omen and Continuum Cut. Okay, yeah, so we can multicast his damage abilities with his cooldown abilities. He buffs himself, and there's some damage. Not gonna be a lot because, yeah, the boss wasn't broken. Or imperiled. Now, speaking of imperils, that is something worthy of note with Kingdom Hearts Cloud's kit, is that he doesn't have any innate imperils or innate elemental attacks, meaning that you either need to equip him with an elemental weapon to maintain your damage, or you need to, my brain went out the window when I started doing attacks and stuff. You either need to imbue or imperil externally or equip an elemental weapon, is basically what I was getting at. So, let's see, what other abilities are interesting? I don't know, honestly it's just Continuum Cut, it's too good. So, with the boss broken, it's going to do a little more damage. And you can see most of the damage lands on the last hit because it is backloaded like a lot of other more recent damage abilities, which is nice. So that's cool. Also look at the HP on my Gladiolus and be envious because that... Ugh. Gladio. What an animal. Alright, I do kind of want to see how his Limit Burst does against the boss, even though this boss is very resistant to physical damage. And this friend unit may not have, like, the best Limit Burst. I don't remember if he leveled it. I was literally just looking at it. Yeah, it's unleveled, so... And he also doesn't have any killers to match this boss, so we'd have to see... He may not actually do much damage at all, but, it's worth seeing. Yeah, that does a pretty good chunk of damage. I think it's a nice skill. So if you're going to use Kingdom Hearts Cloud a lot, which, what Gumi says is they are going to be upgrading Cloud and Sora to essentially match their Japanese counterparts in the future, which means that you get basically a free set of upgrades for him, which is awesome. So, what you're going to see right here is basically an optimal setup for most players, where I have an elemental weapon equipped to Cloud, I have an elemental weapon equipped to Hyoh, and then I have an external imperiler who's imperiled light, so they should be able to do a gross amount of damage. Oops. That's what happens when you try to activate it too quickly. Yeah, as you can see, that was a piece of cake. So yeah, continuum cuts what you want. As far as, since Hyoh is the one that's on the battlefield next to him, we can talk about their comparison. Hyoh and Cloud are similar but inverse to one another in that Cloud is going to do more damage if all you need is single target Divine Ruination chains, and that's courtesy of his increased modifiers to his ability. However, when it comes to comparing limit bursts, Hyoh's limit burst eclipses Cloud's in terms of utility and total damage if you're looking for AoE chaining damage. So, kind of depends. Do you want to benefit from Hyoh's limit burst, or do you want to benefit from Cloud's single target chains? Totally up to you, totally up to the fight. I definitely hold them in equal regard because I could see myself using them in different cases, especially where maybe I want to burst things down with Hyoh's limit burst, or maybe Cloud is, I just need that single target chaining. So, you know, it just depends. Now, looking at his, how to build him exactly, he's like any other true double hand damage dealer. You want to equip him with a two-handed weapon, and you want to equip him with his own TMR, probably. Although if you have all the STMRs in the world, you probably don't have to do that. But, yeah, essentially he is a true double hand damage dealer. One thing to keep in mind, if I recall correctly, he does have a hair more double hand than Hyoh. Let's check that real quick. That's worth noting. Because he gets 50% from when his TMR is equipped, like from his TMR itself, which is nice. He gets another 100% at 6 stars, level 1, and then he gets another 50% at level 110, which means that with just his TMR equipped, you're looking at 200% true double hand. So, let's take a look at a more practical build. This is basically your Whale of all whales build, where you're going to have 400% attack and 300% true double hand, and you can see he gets super, super high attack. Now, if we're going to take this and make it a little more accessible, reload this. Hello. All right, here we go. If we're going to redo this from like a more reasonable perspective, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just use 5-star TMRs only, because these are things that we can UOC for if we really wanted to, although I would probably discourage it. But they are attainable. So, like I said before, you do want to equip an elemental weapon or have an external imbuer, but for the sake of just looking awesome, we're going to do a two-handed weapon because that damage variance is really nice. We're going to grab Prish's hat, is going to be his best non-STMR headpiece, and then for chest piece, most people are going to want to go for Hyoh's clothes if they have that available. And then for TMR, we're going to do Kingdom Heart Cloud's own TMR. And then you probably want the highest attack accessory that you have in the other hand if you have Buster Style. But if you do not have Buster Style, you can put Elfrida's TMR here instead. We're going to go with, actually, yeah, we're just going to go with Elfrida's TMR in this case. Okay, so at this point, we're at 250% true double hand, which means all we need to hit that 300% cap should be Nalu's STMR, which is 50% true double hand and 25% attack. So yeah, you can see right there, we are at 300% true double hand, and we still have some slots to go. So let's do some large sword mastery, since anybody can get that. And let's do Adventurer 5, because anybody can get that. And I think we're approaching what, you know, maybe a reasonable build for a lot of people, especially if we've been playing for a while. And then the last one we want, let's do Proud Fencer, which is a 4-star TMR, and then we can slap any old Esper on there for whatever killer is most appropriate. Let's just do Odin because he has the highest attack, and it looks better that way. So, as you can see, without any STMRs, we are able to hit 2484 attack, which is really good. Plus, we have the damage variance from Lionheart, and if we were to roll Item World, and we rolled really lucky on there, I don't think... Can you get both these rares? I haven't even thought about that. That would be nutty. Alright, so if we rolled pretty immaculately in Item World, you could be at over 2600 attack with Kingdom Hearts Cloud, which is really awesome. This is only 5-star base TMRs, and then a bunch of... a few free things as well. This is probably the direction I would gear him. Again, of course, you can include things that nullify status ailments for particular fights, or you can use an elemental weapon for a particular fight. Elemental weapons, you always want to be chaining with an element in most cases, so definitely keep that in mind when you're building your cloud. Emulate what your friends have, or put something up that your friends might feel is useful. If there's not a new trial or an event going on, then you can probably put up pretty much whatever, but this is a pretty good all-around build, and if you went with this non-elemental weapon, just make sure that you're imbuing externally to benefit from imperils. So then the big question will come, what's Kingdom Hearts Cloud worth? Is it worth investing in him? Is it worth using the unit? And in my opinion, I think that he and Sora live on kind of a similar tier right now, where both of them do a really disgusting amount of damage, and they're both good units. So I don't really see anything wrong with investing in them, especially if you've already gone on to the banner anyways. So I would imagine that the majority of people wound up with Kingdom Hearts Cloud because they were pulling for Sora, and I would imagine that's the case for most people. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you do have Kingdom Hearts Cloud and you're like, alright, well, I have him, and maybe I have Sora, or maybe I don't. The question is, alright, what are you going to do with him? I think he's worth the investment. I think he's a good unit. If you already have a double hand physical damage dealer, you may not need to worry about it. It's totally up to you. Should you pull for him? I mean, last time on Sora's unit complete guide thing, I complained at length about the banner, so I'm not going to labor over that again. I don't think you should pull necessarily just for Kingdom Hearts Cloud. Pull for the unit if you want him. If you do get a hold of him, he has a very strong unit. He has a very bright future because he's going to get that basically free enhancement from being lifted up to the JP level of power, and yeah, that about covers it. Honestly, he's a really simple unit. You're just going to be using Continuum Cut 90% of the time, and the rest of the time you're probably using his Limit Burst, so real simple unit to use all around, and for that reason, I don't have a whole lot else to say. So, with that, that's been the complete guide for Kingdom Hearts Cloud. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. Did I miss anything? Did I forget anything? Like I said, I don't own the unit, so I may have missed things that, you know, would have come with me actually playing with the unit and using them. So, let me know if I missed anything, and let me know who you would like to see in the next video, and I will see everybody in the next one.